Hey everybody, I'm the Lazy Quilter and I'm finally back with a tutorial for you guys. Today I'm going to show you how to bind. This video has been in demand from a lot of my students who take beginning 1 and 2 for me, and for those of you out on YouTube who have asked for it. It's an important video. We don't do binding very much. You know, when you do a quilt, you make a top and sometimes it sits for a little while. And so we don't always get to practice binding as much as we do piecing. So we become master piecers and we don't really remember how to do binding. We have to remind ourselves. So video time, right? All right, so I'm going to teach you how to machine bind today. You can hand bind, but I really prefer machine binding, especially when I'm putting out something really quick. I also, you know, every few years I'll do a very special piece, and that I will hand bind. But for the most part, I really like machine binding. I think it's super pretty, and we have all these gorgeous decorative stitches on our machines that we never use, and so this is a great way to use them and get used to that. And so for those of you who want to hand bind, you can still hand bind, but the first half of this video is going to show you how to put binding together, how to press it, how to attach it to the quilt, and then, you know, the rest is going to be done by hand. So, you know, for those of you who want to hand bind, you'll get a little bit out of this too. So I'm going to be binding this piece, if you guys remember from oh so long ago when I started this series. And we're going to be doing just basic mitering to start with, and then, you know, continue on to the machine. So let's get started. Okay, so this is a fabric that I've picked out for my binding. I really like it, and when I choose binding, I like to put it on proportionally. Always lay your fabrics together. It's when you're picking binding and you already have your project done. I like to lay it out so I've just got a thin strip showing on all sides, so it's really going to show me how it's going to look. And just like borders, binding pulls out color too. So if I put this green in it, all of these little green pieces in the fabric are going to really stand out. And so I want to pull that green out because we have so much red going on right now. So I'm going to use this green. And I had somebody ask me, it is Moda. I think this is basic gray. Yeah, it is. This is basic gray. This is the last season Christmas. I really like it because it's like, it reminds me of like sweaters for some reason. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. I originally pulled this stripe out for binding because I really like using stripes for binding. I like the way it looks, especially when they're on the diagonal like this. And straight too, but it just, I think stripes makes really nice binding. But I kind of ran into a little problem when I laid it next to each other. I realized that this stripe really is a cream base, and I have all of this white. I don't really like putting the two together more than I have to, so I decided to go with the green. There's some reasoning there, but you know, I was just going with my gut feeling. Which usually works. Sometimes not. There's a pile of bad decisions with fabric. So what I'm going to do to determine how much binding I need, I'm going to actually measure 2 sides of this, which this is a square, so all 4 sides should be the same size. In theory. Always in theory, never commit to everything being the same size. This is 13 inches. So I'm going to times 13 by 6. I mean 13 by 4 because there's only 4 sides, hopefully. So 13 and 13 is 26. 26 is 52. So I know this is 52 inches around. Now I like to add a little extra when I'm deciding how much to cut, because we're going to be folding it and mitering it. So on big quilts, I add 12 extra inches because it's 12 inches, then it'll give me enough room to get there, to you know, go all the way around, and then a little extra room for what we need it for. So don't try to be precise on this, okay? Give yourself a little leeway. So what I'm going to do is, I know that fabric is basically 40 to 45 inches in width, and I know that to make 52, I'm going to add about 6 inches to this to make sure I have enough, so 58. So I'm gonna need 2 strips. 2 strips to cover 58, because because I only have whatever. So we're gonna cut 2.5 inch strips. That's pretty standard, universal. Sometimes you'll see some smaller, sometimes bigger, but most time you'll see 2.5 inch strips for binding. And I'm gonna cut it off the bolt. So I need 2 strips at 2.5, so 5. So I'm actually gonna make my first cut a little bit bigger because I like to give myself some room when I get it down to this size, and I'm gonna trim it. Little refresher for you guys who haven't watched the cutting video in a while. I line up with this fold, okay? This fold is the straight to me, not these sides. I'm gonna trim these sides to be straight with the fold, all right? So I'm gonna line up my ruler at the edge of this fold, and I'm gonna cut myself short doing it. If you haven't watched the cutting video, do go back to my channel and check it out. So now I know that this side is straight with this fold, which I like, and I'm gonna start cutting my 2.5 inches. Line up with each side. Down here, up through here. Binding is great for practicing cutting because you really do not have to be perfect at all with binding. I really left myself no room here. That's all right, it's close enough. I'm just gonna trim off this little part, and it didn't cut. All right, so I have my 2 strips. Then I'm gonna take them and I'm gonna cut off these selvages. Cut your selvages off. You don't want them in. Okay. So now I have my 2 pieces cut, and I'm going to get them ready to be mitered. Now, mitering is basically attaching 2 pieces on the diagonal. And, oh, let me go back. Is it okay if I go back? Remember, here's my fold. And the reason why I treat the fold as a straight, so when I cut it, it's straight this way, okay? If we cut it and we're lining up with the edge, we can end up with a V cut. Go test it out. That'll give you a nice straight cut. It's very hard to cut something straight when it's folded. Which is why we want big cutting mats to help us out. Okay, so back to mitering. So mitering, I do this with borders, and I do it with binding, and I never make a straight seam right across. What I'm saying is, I just don't put things together like this, so, and then put them together. I don't like that. I like a diagonal, and the reason I like diagonal is, 1, it distributes seams. So it distributes seams across a bigger piece of the fabric rather than straight across. It also looks prettier. If you're mitering 2 pieces that are patterned, it's a lot harder to see it on the diagonal than on the straight. If you're one of those people that is really ticky about things lining up, then this might help a little bit. So I might be ticky about a few things. I don't know, maybe. But anyway, so we're gonna miter this together, and we're gonna get it ready. We're gonna lay our first piece down, and if you're doing a big quilt, you might have like 7 to 10 strips all together. So you're gonna do this a bunch, but I only have to do it once. Huh. And binding is my least favorite part, by the way. I think it might be everybody's least favorite part. So I'm gonna line this up in a kind of a perpendicular setting, okay? So instead of lining it up like this, I've seen a lot of people do this. They line it up, you know, so everything matches up, and then they do a line. They draw a line from corner to corner. And they're trying to draw from this corner to this corner where the two fabrics meet, and it's really hard to see. So what I do is I let it overlap, okay? I line them up perpendicular. I want a 90-degree angle here, a 90 here, a 90 here, a 90 here, okay? And that way I can see where the two fabrics are interacting, all right? Oh, the things we learn over the years. So I'm gonna draw a line from that 90-degree angle to the other using a pen. Okay, so I have my line marked. I'm gonna pin, okay? Now, we're gonna sew down that drawn line. And then we're gonna take the last piece of fabric we laid down and we're gonna swap it out, and it's gonna be laid down like this. And then I would take my next fabric and lay it down so the 90 degrees happen, and then draw a line. You see what I'm doing? And then you just continually do that till you're out of strips. And then after you have all that done, you can take it over your sewing machine and sew straight down the line. So I'm gonna go over and do that real quick. I don't think you guys need to see that, right? But we'll come back to this cutting table. So right where I mitered it, and I've trimmed it, I'm actually gonna press this seam open. And I like to press seams open when I miter them together because it distributes the bulk. So we don't have, if we flip it all to one side, then you have 2 extra layers of fabric on both sides instead of it being flattened out and distributed, which I like to do, just good practice. I press a lot of stuff out. I'm just hitting where the fold is on this fabric before. So you don't really have to start. You can if you want. Binding is pretty, pretty forgiving. You can go through and do this pretty quickly. I'm just gonna take my binding and start folding it half in long ways. It's half long ways. And pressing all the way down, and I'm actually gonna go all the way to the end with this. Pressing it like this allows us to give it a smooth edge and a raw edge, so when we go to put it onto the quilt, it will not have a raw edge exposed. So you'll see what I mean when we start putting it on. So, all right, so let's get the rest of this pressed. Fast forward time. Now, we are going to sew this to the back of the quilt. This is a little awkward with the camera, but I think I can do it. So what you're gonna need is you're going to need your 1/4 inch foot on. I have my Clearview foot on, so no guide. And regular thread, regular needle. If you haven't changed your needle in a while, remember, change it. So we're gonna start, I always like to start close to a corner, okay? All right, and I like to leave a good hanging bit. We're gonna need that in the end, okay? Be generous. Now, we're just gonna line up the binding with the edge of the quilt, okay? And we're gonna start. This piece has double batting in it, so I'm kind of gonna be interesting to see how easy it is to quilt. Oops, sorry camera, I've gotta move a little bit. Stand up. Now, I'm going to stop when I'm 1/4 inch away from my edge. And my foot actually has a marking, and most 1/4 inch feet do. They have a little, it's like a little notch. Mine's a red line, and that is that will tell me when I'm 1/4 of an inch away. So when my line lines up with the edge of the fabric, I know I'm 1/4 of an inch. I'm gonna lift my foot without taking my needle out. If you need to drop your needle before you do it. And I'm actually going to sew catty corner off of this. So I'm gonna start, sew, cut. Oops. Do you see? Let's see how much. Okay, there we go. You can see my stitching is going catty corner off of this edge. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my binding, I'm going to flip it up. That's why we have to go catty corner, so it'll flip up like this. Okay. And I'm going to flip it down. I'm going to line it up. See how that worked out? And then it goes back under the machine. This is where 1/4 inch for your walking foot can really come in handy. Okay, this is what a walking guide, 1/4 inch walking guide is great for, is binding. Because we're going through a fair bit of thickness right now. Even in a regular quilt, we're doing a layer of batting, 2 layers of cotton, and then 2 more layers of cotton on a regular quilt, and that's quite a bit to go through. And then when we go through those corners like I just did, we're adding even more. So a walking foot with 1/4 inch, it's really great. I actually have one. I don't know why I have it on. Why I don't have it on. Oh well. Okay, so again, I'm gonna wait. And your needle up down button, you can actually use to perfect where you're stopping, because it'll take a stitch every time you lift and drop. And I'm going to line up this line with the edge of my quilt. I'm going to stop it, turn it, and sew off catty corner. Okay, so now one more time I'm going to flip up. Oops. And then I'm going to flip down. And that's a corner. Okay, I'm rounding this last corner. And I am going to just go a little bit. Whoop. And then I'm going to stop. And I'm going to leave myself a good amount of space, at least 6 inches. The more the better though.